This has got to be one of my favorite videos that I wanted to cover over a year, but I didn't think I would do justice with this video if it was a year ago. So today, I'm pleased to bring you one of the longest videos that'll be on this channel. Hello V Nation, this is Kyle from Varistudiostv, the who's, what's, where's, when's, and tens of anime. And today, we will be looking at the 6 upper moons of Demon Slayer, Kimetsu no Yaiba. There will be manga spoilers in this video, so without further ado, let's begin. Upper Moon 6, Daki, is the main protagonist to Demon Slayer Season 2, the Entertainment District arc. This is also the start of the story of 2 tortured souls who became demons to save their own lives. Ume and Gyutaro, who were both brother and sister. Gyutaro came first. He was born from a sickly mother who had syphilis due to her extracurricular activities, let's put it that way. Because of this, he was born deformed, already looking like a corpse. His very mother tried murdering him because she couldn't afford to feed him. As fate would have it though, she would end up dying from her disease. This would not bode well for the young child, as due to his appearance and hygiene, he was shunned and beaten by the people of the village. After all, he was born in a place that worshipped beauty over everything else, and he was definitely no Michael Jackson. He had to forage for food and even eat rats, which, my dude, can't be good for your health. Things would soon change though after his younger sister was born, and man oh man, he was sure glad she was pretty. Her name was Ume, and she gave him a new purpose. All he wanted to do was to protect her and make sure she had everything she needed in life to grow up big and strong. Thus, he became a debt collector who was pretty good at his job and practiced using the sickle as well, which he got good at using as well. But the funny thing is, Ume wasn't exactly perfect. She was born with a very short fuse. In fact, if you compare her to her brother, who had the body, she would have had the mind. One day, while servicing a wealthy samurai, he tried to grope her and she fought back by taking his eye. This would be their downfall though. He was afraid to retaliate due to the older brother's presence. His opportunity would soon come after the older brother left town to run an errand. Ume was tied up and burnt alive. Wow, this story took a turn for the worse. And when Gyutaro returned, he found her burnt corpse in a hole. All her beauty was gone and his motivation with her. Too bad he didn't know that the samurai had all intentions of letting him join her, as Gyutaro was struck in the back of the head and left to die. But we all know, guys like these, they don't die. He took his revenge on the samurai by killing him and fled the village with the burned corpse of his sister in search for help. But no one would come. There was one, however. You guessed it. No, it's not him, but Upper Moon 2, Doma. They were both saved, and this is where their reign of terror began. So now that we've seen their lives as humans, let's look at their ridiculous powers as demons. Daki was praised by Muzan for being a special demon, not only because of her body, but she was also pretty powerful. So much so to overwhelm Tanjiro, Zenitsu, Nezuko, and Inosuke. However, she wouldn't have gotten very far if it wasn't for her brother, who they shared the same rank. As you know, because she was a demon, she did possess incredible physical ability, strength, speed, stamina, reflexes, and endurance. So we can just cross those off the list, and I'll probably do that for the remainder of the demons. She did have incredible regenerative abilities and enhanced senses as well. Like Enmu, she possesses flesh manipulation as well, being able to manipulate her flesh into various structures, mainly a cloth-like sash, which you have to admit does add to her beauty. These sashes she uses as a deadly weapon that can slice and cut her target up with ease. She also has a weird technique that allows her to split her body part or sash off and it becomes its own being. We've seen it guarding her human storage warehouse weirdly. On top of that, she's able to capture and store humans in her sashes as well, basically keeping her food fresh. She can manipulate her neck to have the same properties as her sash, making it extremely hard to cut due to its cloth-like nature. Tanjiro had an extreme difficulty in cutting her neck due to this. Even worse, she levels up to Sidel-like abilities, being able to manipulate her hair and use as a weapon. She did this to Inosuke, who cut her head off and ran off with it like a true OG. She also has notable abilities like a psychic connection with her brother, so they can sync their attacks with deadly accuracy, decapitation immunity, while her brother is asleep with his core 4 fuse with hers, she is unable to die by decapitation. One has to cut both their heads off at the same time. Now, we won't be getting into his overall abilities like what all demons possess, like speed, strength, and regeneration. That would just take up too much time. He does possess all of the abilities of his sister, just a little stronger and even more. As a human, in his life he used a sickle. He is now a master at using that, and guess what? It's coated with poison. If it should even scratch you, it's enough to immobilize you so that he can finish you off. Tengen found this out the hard way. Even with being resistant to all forms of poison and using his breathing techniques to slow down the speed of the poison, it was still not enough to stop the effects. Now, Gyutaro's blood demon art revolves around him being able to manipulate his blood to create projectiles, and you guessed it, they can slice and dice you to pieces. They are extremely fast, cover a wide area, and can even be used as a shield. Honestly, this is one of the most terrifyingly broken demons I've seen out there. He was enough to take on everyone and give them a hard time. So Daki and Gyutaro was killed in battle, as thus a new number 6 stepped up almost immediately. He was Upper Moon 6 Kaigaku. He is a Breath of Thunder user and the senpai to Zenitsu, a complete selfish jealous bastard that didn't really appreciate his gifts. His master, the former Thunder Pillar, actually committed suicide when he learned of the fact that one of his most prized students became a demon. But despite this, Kaigaku didn't even seem to care. In fact, he was happy that his master died, as he didn't want to share his successorship with Zenitsu, who he thought was inferior, since Zenitsu could only master the first breathing style. He considered himself more superior because he mastered the other 6. Funny enough, he was always berated by the other students that he can't master the first breathing style, which is seen as the simplest. Now, just as any regular demon, he does have enhanced speed, strength, senses, and stuff like that. Kaigaku also has electrokinesis. Kaigaku's blood demon art allows him to generate and manipulate lightning and electricity. He simply mixes his breathing style with his blood. Furthermore, his electricity has been demonically enhanced, creating a sword effect that cracks his opponent's flesh and burns, greatly augmenting the lethality of his attacks. This also turns the electricity he manipulates into deep shades of black. In the end, he falls to Zenitsu. He wasn't really accustomed to using his blood demon art as yet, so he wasn't all that powerful. It's noted that if it were a year or so later, he would have been near undefeatable. Coming down to the wire, we now have Upper Moon 5, Gyokko. One of the creepiest demons I've ever seen, having mouths where eyes are and eyes where mouths should be. Ooh. I wonder what he looked like as a human. He is as sadistic as they come, loving to make weird statues with humans' bodies. He apparently also loves fish, I guess? He faced off with Muchiro. He does have all the demon cliches that we've already known, like enhanced strength, speed, and senses. He also possesses this spot, which is pretty cute. He can also teleport instantaneously. Just a quick fact, Muzan actually likes this spot. It's not that bad looking. But let's get back to his powers. Notably, he's able to trap those in a ball of water where you slowly drown and die. He's able to summon non-sentinel fish from his pots as well. He can also summon octopus tentacles from the jar. Now, here's something interesting. He can also molt and transform, where he starts to look like a fish mermaid man thing. His nails and scales are as sharp and hard as diamonds, and anything he makes contact with also turns into fish that he can control at will. He can also shoot a fish wave. I never thought I would actually say that. These small fish can eat away flesh, and if they're cut, they release a poison that paralyzes and kills you. It's actually a lot stronger and more dangerous than I thought. In the end, he was decapitated by Muchiro before he even knew it. Goodbye, creepy fishman. Now we have Lower Moon 4, Hantengu, and I wanted to do a very interesting video on him specifically, but that will be another 4 or 5 Demon Slayer videos away, so it will take a really long time. Just don't expect it for a while. But holy mother of Muzan, this dude is full of tricks. I don't even really know where to start with him, but we'll try and break down his abilities as we go. So this demon basically is able to split his emotions into multiple parts and manifest them. Hantengu is the primary form and had the persona of cowardice. In this form, he has enhanced stealth, able to sneak up on even the most skilled demon slayers without being noticed. On top of that, he's notoriously hard to kill due to his small size and is very good at hiding. Sekido is anger. Sekido's ability is to summon extremely powerful lightning strikes and manipulate them at will. Karaku is relaxed. he has the power of wind generation. Karaku can manipulate his fans to create powerful gusts of wind capable of leveling entire buildings and nearly crushing humans and demons respectively to death. He does leave behind a really cute maple leaf crater. Aizetsu is Sorrow, and his power is spear manipulation. He incorporates this ability in close range combat by extending the reach of his spear during mid-range thrusts and slashes, allowing him to easily butcher his opponents from long to mid-range combat. Yurogi is Delight, the most jovial and giddy of Hantengu's clones. He has bird-like physiology and, as you guessed it, uses his wings and talons very effectively. They are extremely sharp and he can do a sonic scream which is nothing to be messed with. Zohakuden is Hate, the evolved form of Sekido after he absorbed the other clones. He does have wood manipulation. Zohakuden can manipulate the wood from the flora in his surroundings and conjure wood dragons to attack his opponents by beating his 5 drums attached to his back, which controls those dragons, of course. He has the ability to combine abilities. Now, we've seen him use the ability of the other 4 clones that he absorbs in conjunction with his dragon heads, capable of breathing out lightning and thunder and emitting a sonic scream as well. He can generate very powerful gusts of wind, leaving behind gigantic maple leaf craters. They can also breathe out spear-like thrust attacks, like Aizetsu. Urami is Resentment. This is the final form of Hantengu's clones, and a last-ditch attempt at surviving. The final emotional detachment split from Hantengu himself. He was easily frightened by what occurred in his surroundings, showing traits of paranoia, fear, and delusion. Despite the evidence that he has done numerous crimes as a human, he still believes that he was innocent and didn't do anything wrong. So even as a demon, killing and eating scores of innocent people, he still believed that he was the innocent one, and that they were more threat to his life. As thus, the more threatened he feels, the stronger his other personalities become. He was eventually defeated with the combined efforts of Tanjiro, Nezuko, Genya, Merchiro, and Mitsuri. Next up on the list, we have Lower Moon 4, who is the one who succeeded Hantengu after his death, Nakime. Though not strong, her ability to control the illusion fortress is formidable. Her powers are a little like Kyogai, who is able to use sound-based instruments to manipulate his surroundings. She can also create portals to other rooms. She was defeated fairly easily without much of a fight, as she isn't a fighter, she's an illusionist. It's time for Akaza, Upper Moon 3. His life was real tragic. You see, he wasn't born rich. In fact, he was born very impoverished and his father was very sick. He used to steal and provide for his father, something that he does gladly even when he gets caught and beaten to a pulp. And man, oh man, he sure is beaten to a pulp. The markings on Akaza was from him stealing and getting caught. Once caught, you will be marked with the Ring of Thievery, and when you get up to 3, your hands will be cut off. His father hated being a burden on his son, and so, like any father would, he hung himself. No, not any father would do that. That's just crazy. This was a devastating blow on Akaza's psyche. And should I say his real name was Hakuji? I'll start calling him Hakuji. But anyways, after the death of the one person that he was willing to do anything for, he went on a fighting spree, or basically tried to rage quit the game. Either way, he was beaten to a pulp. Well, when you pick a fight with adults who don't really care or have qualms about beating a child to death, you're pretty much guaranteed to check out. During this time, a bare-fist martial arts master found young Hakuji in one of these brawls and took him in after a one-hit KO to the child's face. Way to go, master. He brought Hakuji home and simply asked him to take care of his sickly daughter, as her mother had killed herself due to exhaustion. Turns out Hakuji was the perfect person to take care of Koyuki, and through his help, she made a full recovery. To the point, her father had promised her hand in marriage to Hakuji, on top of that, also naming the young boy his successor and gave him the dojo. This was short-lived though, as there was a dojo nearby who hated the father and daughter and wanted the land for themselves, so they poisoned their well. This is what led to the death of Hakuji's master and fiancé, and ultimately his dream to having a peaceful life. Their deaths sent him into a blind rage. He went over to the other dojo and with his bare fists murdered every single one of them. At the time, it made nationwide news, so much so that it had to be covered up without a purpose anymore. And feeling like a failure, Hakuji wandered the streets covered in blood and exhausted. And wouldn't you know it, he met Muzan, where Muzan shared some of his blood, turning Hakuji into the demon we all know today, Akaza. But without his memories, only his drive to be stronger and his refusal to kill women. When it comes to his strength, I think none is matched to Akaza, especially with his kicks and punches. They are so strong they can easily kick a demon slayer hundreds of meters away and even blow the head of upper rank 2 Doma with ease. He is also a master of hand-to-hand combat. His speed and reflexes are next to none other. He's even able to dodge the closest attacks to him by sensing killer intent. He was able to keep up with high-level Hashiras and overwhelm them with just speed. Coupled with his incredible regenerative abilities, endless endurance, tactical intellect, extrasensory perception, and durability, this dude is basically an unbeatable tank and stands to this day the only demon that could not be killed by demon slayers. I think he could easily be number 1. I'd have to do a video on that to really dive deep into all of his abilities, but let's just continue. He's able to resist even being decapitated and would have evolved into a greater demon if not for his own will to fight being broken. Tanjiro and Gyu were actually lucky to survive this fight. Some of his signature techniques are all based around the Soryu style and his blood demon art technique development. He has several techniques called Destructive Needle, Air type, Disorder, and Annihilation type, along with several other techniques that are targeted at strengthening his leg power. He was truly amazing, but enough about him. Time for us to move on a little. If you want to see me break down each demon and their abilities, please let me know in the comments. I'll probably do a video on it anyways. But it's time to move on. Up next, Upper Moon 2, Doma. As a child, Doma was worshipped as a god due to his rainbow eyes, and was said to become the leader of the Eternal Paradise cult. Even as a child, he was disconnected from the world. I think it's because of how he was worshipped by people around him. He never got to live his life as a child. As such, he took great interest in giving people what they wanted, because in his mind there was no god, no Buddha, and no afterlife. So the thought of the looks on people's faces when they came to this realization near their death was what he truly loved. As much as he behaves friendly and happy, he feels no sort of emotion. This was further realized when his mother killed his father after sleeping with some of the females of the cult. He remarked only to the bloodstains all over the place, saying that it's a mess, not even feeling an ounce of emotion to his dead parents. He became a demon at a relatively young age, still around about age 20, but he still remained the cult leader. After all, you do need your constant supply of humans to eat who no one cares about. This is also where he crossed paths with Inosuke's mother, who sought refuge in the cult. She thought it was safe until she found out that Doma was a demon and eating the other cult members. So she decided in the middle of the night to yeet it out of there. She thought the only way to save her child's life was to throw him off a cliff. Doma caught up with her fairly quickly and ate her. On top of that, he killed Shinobu's sister, the former flower Hashira, and further absorbed her as well. It's only fitting that Inosuke and Kanao would face off with this deadly opponent who especially loved to eat women and think that he was setting their souls free for some reason. He has the regular strength cliches of all demons. Increased speed, senses, regeneration, strength, and everything else you can think of. His blood demon art is particularly interesting. It allows him to control ice, which I can't wait to see animated, but would probably be a couple of years from now. He also uses his fans, which he controls the temperature of the air. If you inhale, your lungs will freeze on contact, slowing you down enough for this demon to kill and eat you. He can create some pretty nice ice lotuses and ice clones. On top of that, a huge ice statue that attacks and pretty much does anything he wants. His downfall came at his own hubris when he ate Shinobu, whose body was filled with poison. This started to break down Doma's cells, where Inosuke and Kanao had the time they needed to lop off his head. Based on what's happening, I think that if he didn't have poison in his body, he would have evolved to become immune to decapitation. But sadly, or not so sadly, he died. So let's move on to the final demon. And finally, we have Demon Moon 1 Kokushibu. In some of my previous videos, I actually had trouble pronouncing his name. I think I called him Kishobu or something along that lines, which sounds pretty good, but I missed out the first KO, so it's Kokushibu, which should be pretty easy to pronounce. I really have trouble with Japanese names, so don't destroy me in the comments. but I think I got this right, Kokushibu. Aside from looking freaky as hell, he is the strongest demon apart from Muzan. He is so strong that it took Genya, Miuchiro, Gyome, and Saname to take him down. And even then, it was only because he lost his will to fight after seeing his own horrendous appearance. As a child, Kokushibu was known as Michikatsu Sugekuni, who was actually the brother to the strongest and first demon slayer and the very first sun breather, Yoriichi Sugekuni. And for some reason, I have an easier time pronouncing his human name different from his demon name. That's weird. Alright, Katsu wasn't born as strong as his twin brother, as he himself did not manifest a mark or couldn't see the see-through world or even wield sun breathing. He always saw himself as a lesser carbon copy of his brother's shine, not even realizing that his brother looked up to him so much that he kept a flute that he made for him when they were kids up to his death as an old man. He wanted to be as strong as his brother so much that he abandoned his wife and child to pursue being a demon slayer. After accepting his fate to never be as strong as his brother, he then joined Muzan, and it was there that his name was changed to Kokushibu. He did meet his twin brother again. They had a brief fight where Kokushibu remarked that 2 attacks from his brother was all that was needed to lop off his own head. The second attack would never come though, as his brother died from natural causes right before he could. With no one to stand in his way, he then pursued his dream to finally be the strongest, and he laid waste to an uncomfortable amount of humans over the centuries that he's been number 1. He's also the one that changed Kaigaku into a demon. It's notable that he's also the ancestor to Miuchiro. So let's start looking at his sword, which is creepy to say the least, filled with eyes made from his flesh. He is also like Kaigaku, retaining his breathing style and using his blood demon art to enhance it. On top of that, his speed is unmatched, seen where he was able to cut off Akaza's hand without him even noticing. On top of when fighting so many demon slayers at once, he was so fast that they had trouble keeping up with him. But it gets worse. His breath style, Breath of the Moon, creates various blades of all sizes. Their speed and strength is notable in that they are almost impossible to dodge. It takes these demon slayers doing everything in their power to stop him, with Miuchiro and Genya knowingly giving up their lives to keep him immobile for just a few seconds so that Gyome and Saname can finally decapitate him. Even after being decapitated, he then evolved into a demon who was immune to it. Only after seeing the horrific monster he had become, he had decided to move on to the afterlife and accepted his fate. Pardon my mispronunciation of the names, especially Miuchiro's name. If you haven't seen the previous video on the lower moons and the history of the 12 demon Kizuki, then you should definitely check those out. I'll leave a link with those videos on screen. And thank you guys so much again for joining, and peace out V Nation. Stay safe out there.